Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling of loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. So, this theme has been repeated multiple times in Shrimad Bhagavatam because it's a very important theme to understand. First of all, the oral reception, hearing Krishna Katha. The hearing process is paramount in importance when it comes to growing in Krishna consciousness, right? We might do a lot of different things, charity, this, that, this, that. But often we kind of lose focus why we are doing what we are doing. The hearing process on a daily basis is kind of like a self, I wouldn't say motivation, but a reminder why we are doing what we are doing. How awesome is Krishna? How great is the process of bhakti, right? So the hearing process is a very important part of what we do. Srila Prabhupada said that just like a train runs on two tracks, there is hearing and chanting. A devotee's life also runs on two tracks, hearing and chanting. Shravanam, Kirtanam. We hear Krishna Katha, we get inspired. How wonderful is Krishna? The process of bhakti, the process of chanting. And with that motivation, when we chant, we can focus our mind. That gives us purity. We can hear better. We can absorb better. We chant better. And the process is a snowball effect. So here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we're hearing simply by giving oral reception to the Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once. So by hearing, we want to love Krishna more, just like we know the story of Rukmini. Just by hearing about Krishna, she fell in love with Krishna and she wrote a love letter to Krishna that I want you to abduct me. And this is how you can come in. This is how you can take me. And you can marry me. Through the hearing process. Back then, there were no Facebook, nothing. She didn't know how Krishna looked. She heard how Krishna's personality was, his qualities, his pastimes, and everything else. And when we have loving devotional feelings for Krishna, what happens? It extinguishes the fire of lamentation. I wish I did this. I wish I didn't make that mistake. I wish, the lamentation about the past. You can't change the past. So, what happens when you love Krishna? You receive the Supreme Lord as a gift. Any backlogs of what I don't have suddenly leaves you. You don't have regrets because you've received the biggest gift that you could humanly, divinely, possibly, right? So Krishna satisfies us so much. His presence satisfies us so much. Lamentation goes through the window. Illusion. Maya Devi says, sorry, my boss is here. I am no more. This is not my jurisdiction. She gets out of the way. And fearfulness goes away. Why? Because fear personified is fearful of Krishna. When Krishna comes in, fear says, I'm scared. The Lord is here. Sorry, I'm leaving. Out of the way. Right? So suddenly we see this confidence within ourselves. I have personally experienced that. Being in America, building a business, parents separated, financial crisis, and yet there is this fearlessness. I would just 5 minutes with my mentor, and he would say, Krishna is there. Krishna is your father. What do you have to worry? He's the husband of the goddess of fortune. What do you have to worry? Krishna's name is Achyuta. He never lets anybody fall, right? He never lets a devotee fall. That's why he's an infallible Lord. He promises, Yogakshemam Vahamiyaham. Whatever you lack, I will carry. Whatever you have, I will sustain. Krishna is your father. Just hearing one statement, one shloka, and fearfulness goes away, confidence comes in, and we can move towards our goal, towards our journey, right? That's the process of hearing. So for me, my college days, that was my hearing. I was not listening to Prabhupada's lectures or things like that. I was just hearing one class here with my mentor, something in the Sunday feast. And then whenever I'm in doubt, I would give a call to my mentor and he would very kindly give me his time. And again, short conversations. And that kept me going in this journey that I started as an entrepreneur and a devotee. So I do the same for many of you, right? And it's important that you use that time with me. You use that opportunity of inspiration that, I'm feeling this. What should I do? And with that process, not only you get inspired, I also get inspired. Because as I'm narrating the shloka, as I am sharing that, I'm also feeling rejuvenated inside me, because that's the process of bhakti. The person who's sharing and the person who's receiving both are getting benefited. So don't feel you're bothering me. You're actually benefiting me by asking me to share Krishna consciousness. So ask. When in doubt, ask. So what happens when Krishna Bhakti comes in? Fire of lamentation goes away. Illusion goes away. Clarity comes in. We understand I am a servant of Krishna. Krishna is God. I am not, but Krishna has the godlike abilities which he can make impossible possible. And if I align with the Supreme Lord through the process of bhakti, I have access to all that power, all that divinity, all that strength, all that love that Krishna has for his devotee, right? And as illusion, lamentation, and fearfulness goes away, with full vigor, with full enthusiasm, full determination, we can move forward in Krishna consciousness. One time, Srila Prabhupada, he was wanting to have, sorry, this was not during Prabhupada's time, after Prabhupada. So let me think for a second. It was Prabhupada's time. So these devotees, they want to do Rath Yatra on the streets of New York. And somehow or other, they were not getting the permission. And this devotee was going every day to the mayor's office, every day to the assistant of the mayor, and this person and that person. And they were like, yeah, we'll get back to you. And they knew that the mayor was not very pro Krishna consciousness. And this kept on happening day after day. And this is something that's been told to me by His Holiness Badrinath Swami. So if there are any nuances, but point is, one day Prabhupada said, please make it happen. Why is it taking so long? This devotee took that inspiration, went to the mayor's office, and he asked the assistant, what is the problem? What is happening? It's like, well, the signature, has to happen from the mayor's side, and there are certain rules that you can't do this and you can't do that. And in your Rath Yatra, you are going to, have this massive 36 feet chariot that's going to go through the roads. There's security issues and police issues. And the man, this devotee, he just took the paper, he jumped off the table, he entered the mayor's office, went to the mayor, took his pen, put it in front of the mayor, and said, please sign here, sir. The mayor looked at him, smiled, took the pen, and smiled it, and signed the document. And since then till now, we have New York Rath Yatra happening, because and most of the so-called parades, many of them have been removed, but ISKCON Rath Yatra still happens because the legacy for decades and decades, 40, 50 years, this has been happening. So, when that devotee was asked, what got into you that you jumped across the table from the mayor's assistant, got to his office, told him to sign? It's like, I don't know. Empowerment came, courage came in the heart. Suddenly I lost all fear. Prabhupada said it has to happen. I have to do it. And I went there, got signed, and it's still happening. So, no, that's an extreme example. That's an extreme example. But in our lives also, a lot of times that fear, the debilitating what if people will think this, society will think that, blah blah blah, all of that kind of makes us paralyzed. When Krishna bhakti comes in, that sense of Krishna as my father, right, what happens is our prefrontal cortex opens up, and we can think in ways we didn't think was possible. We can actually come up with solutions we didn't think were there. Doors that were closed open up, right? Again, I might have shared the story before. One night at 9:43 p.m., I get a email from my website. This guy says, sir, I met you 3 years ago at Shillong. I'm about to end my life. You're the last person I want to talk to. I saw that message at 10:30. I was like, oh my God, oh my God. I call this person up. I'm like, where are you? What are you doing? He's like, I'm standing at the edge of my roof, about to jump. I can't do this anymore. It was pandemic. He had not received any salaries for, I think, some 6 months. And he was the only child of his parents. And for the next 3 hours, we just spoke pure Krishna consciousness. He slowly took a step back from the wedge of the roof back to, normalcy, then to his room. And, I was really praying to Krishna that next morning that he's still there. I called him, he was still there. Within 4 days, he had a job that he never thought of even applying for. Because of Krishna consciousness, chanting, cleansing of the heart, cleansing of the mind, suddenly his mind opened up and he started looking into places which he thought was doors were closed. He got a job within a week, sent me a picture from a helicopter. He's like, I'm on a helicopter distributing medicines to Northeast India. I got this amazing job. I'm able to go to remote villages where there are no hospitals, right? And I'm able to do this wonderful thing during COVID. It is all because you gave me Krishna consciousness. Today I'm alive. Not only I'm alive, I'm happy, and I'm able to do all these wonderful things. 3 years later, he calls me from Bangalore, and I've completely forgotten his name. He's like, remember me, sir? I'm like, of course I remember you. But, I remember, like, so he was like, no, you don't recall. I'm like, well, give me a little context. He's like, I'm the guy who you saved from committing suicide in Shillong. By the way, suicide cases, I have a few list of things. He said, Shillong, yes. How are you? I'm in Bangalore. I have a great job. I have some savings. Now I want to start my business. And I thought, who better than you? Like, okay, fantastic. So he's thriving in life, right? Point is, and he's also chanting Hare Krishna. Now, this is what it looks like, right? Again, I'm giving some stories so it becomes clear. When lamentation goes away, illusion goes away, fearfulness goes away, our brain, our mind works in different ways where we can see things that we didn't see before. Doors open up. And then with Krishna's mercy and our own effort, we're able to move in a direction that we even 10 minutes before didn't think was possible. Okay, going to the next verse. Snehal Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
संसहिता भागवती कृत्वा अनुक्रम्य चात्मजं शुकमध्यापयामासं निवृत्तिनिरतमुनिः. The great sage Vyasadeva, after compiling the Shrimad Bhagavatam and revising it, taught it to his own son, Sri Sukdev Goswami, who was already engaged in self-realization.
Okay, next verse.
Shonaka uvacha सवे निवृत्तिनिरतः सर्वत्रोपेक्षको मुनिः कस्य वा बृहति मेता आत्मा राम समभस्यत. Shri Shonka asked Suta Goswami, Shri Sukdev Goswami was already on the path of self-realization, and thus he was pleased with his own self. So why did he take the trouble to undergo the study of such a vast literature?
Okay, next.
Suta uvacha atmaramashcha munayo nirgantha apyurakrame karvanta hetuki bhakti mithama bhuta guno hari. Suta Goswami said, all different varieties of Atmarams, those who take pleasure in the Atma or spirit self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all the kinds of material bondage, desires to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls.
Thank you much. So, we might have heard from sources that happiness is not out there, happiness is within, right? What does that mean? So, what Atmarama means, one who's self-satisfied, is satisfied in the self. And Atmarama, in this case, is talking about, so Krishna is self-satisfied, and Krishna's devotees also take pleasure in being satisfied in their relationship with Krishna. Krishna does not need anyone, right, to be satisfied, but Krishna has devotees, so he can share and care and exchange loving service. So our happiness is rooted in exchanging loving service with the Supreme Lord and his devotees, you know, jivas in general. So especially those established in the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service. So what happens? All your Maya, desires, material bondage is gone. Now what? You become stone, right? Often people think liberation means Brahmajyoti, right? So here it is being spoken that when you are out of illusion, the natural propensity of the soul is to serve the Supreme Lord. So what is happening here? When we as individuals are happy, what do? We celebrate our birthday. How do we celebrate? We invite friends. We want to share the joy, right? We want to feed them. We want to give them gifts, receiving gifts, right? We share the joy. When we are joyful in Krishna consciousness, same thing happens. We want to share that joy with others. Srimati Radharani and Krishna, they were on a swing, and Krishna is pushing the swing. Radharani is holding onto Krishna very tightly. Krishna is liking it, so he's pushing the swing even harder. She's holding onto Radharani even more tightly. All the gopis are watching. They're like, Radharani is so fortunate. And after they're done this pastime, Radharani gets off from the swing and tells the gopis, now it's your turn. You also go swing with Krishna. That's the mood of a devotee. When we are joyful, when we are deshackled from all these material bondage, when we don't feel lust is pushing us down and greed is pushing us down and all these other, three modes of nature, all that is gone. We are happy, we are free. We can be freely Krishna conscious. And we are happy in our relationship with Krishna. We feel that love and joy that Krishna provides. Then we say, why me alone? I want this to be everybody's experience. So let me take this opportunity to go and make others happy also. Prabhupada said, if I have made you fortunate, you go make others fortunate. And he did it himself. He could have been fortunate in Vrindavan alone, in the Radha Damodar temple. But no, he came to Butler, Pennsylvania, knew no one. YMCA, he was staying there. He was eating from this lady who was not very respectful to him. She was nice, but didn't know all the standards of treating a sannyasi. And from Butler, Pennsylvania, he took a bus to New York. He didn't have a bathroom, didn't have a window. He had to walk 2-3 blocks to go to this Mayavadi person's place, cooked for him. He was the chef for that person. He was not allowed to speak a single word of Krishna consciousness. And that's how he sustained himself for one whole year at the age of 70. When people retired, Prabhupada was starting a startup called ISKCON, right? This was Prabhupada's struggle. Now, why did he do that? Why would any 70-year-old man whose teeth is falling off, kidneys failing, 3 heart attacks do that? Because he feels indebted. My Guru Maharaj gave me this great gift. I am so happy in my relationship with my Guru and Krishna. I want others to be happy also. He was looking at these hippies lying on the street, completely drugged up. He was looking at all these people suffering, and he's like, you know what? They deserve to be happy. They deserve to at least know about Krishna consciousness. And that's the mood of a devotee. Arjun didn't have to do this whole Bhagavad Gita thing, but he was asking on our behalf. Krishna put him under illusion, right? So we could benefit as Kali Yuga people. Parikshit Maharaj is a pure devotee. Put him under illusion so that we can hear this. So this is the mood of Krishna. This is the mood of Krishna's devotees. The best way to serve Krishna is to share this knowledge of Krishna consciousness with others. Right? I was having a great time with Pradeep Prabhu in Haridwar, Rishikesh, at the car. We were going through Bhagavad Gita, shloka by shloka, right? And it's wonderful because, he's learning it and then he wants to share it with others, first with family, then with friends, then Krishna finds you the right devotees who are seeking Krishna. He promises, Dadame Buddhi Yogam Tam, I give you the intelligence by which you can come to me. And he sends his devotees. So when we are ready, we can be Krishna's instrument. And Krishna can send us to the right person and connect us. Those who are seeking Krishna, we can help them find Krishna. Right? So it is our duty to learn this Krishna consciousness in a way that we can share with others. So, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. So the Lord is attracting everyone, but because of our dirty mind or dust on the mirror of the mind, I rather shouldn't say dirty, dust on the mirror of the mind, we are not able to perceive the attractive nature of the Lord. And that's where devotees come in. Devotees cleanse that mirror so that we can see Krishna face to face, right? The heart is ready to accept Krishna. So all of us in our little capacity, whatever Krishna has given us, must do that. That's the whole idea of serving Krishna through ISKCON, because it's a missionary process. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this Atmarama Shloka very vividly before his chief devotee, Srila Sanatan Goswami. He points out 11 factors in the shloka, namely Atmarama, Munaya, Nirgrantha, Apicha, Urukrama, Kurvanti, Ahai Tukim, Bhaktim, Itaham Bhuta Gunaha, Harihi. According to the Vishwa Prakasha Sanskrit Dictionary, there are 7 synonyms for the word Atma, which are as follows: Brahman, the absolute truth; body, mind, endeavor, endurance, intelligence, personal habits. So in Sanskrit, one word can have multiple meanings based on the context that it is being spoken. The word Munaya refers to those who are thoughtful. Muni, Munaya, thoughtful sages. Those who are grave and silent, ascetics, the persistent, mendicants, sages, and saints. The word Nirgrantha conveys these ideas. One who's liberated from nescience, one who has no connection with scriptural injunction, who is freed from the obligation of rules and regulations mentioned in the revealed scriptures like ethics, Vedas, philosophy, psychology, metaphysics. In other words, the fools, illiterate, urchin, etc., who have no connection with regulative principles, a capitalist, and also one who is penniless. According to the Shabdakosha dictionary, the affix ni is used in the sense of certainty, counting, building, forbiddance, and the word grantha is used in the sense of wealth, thesis, vocabulary, etc. The word urukrama means the one whose activities are glorious. Krama means step. This word urukrama specially indicates the Lord's incarnation as Vamana, who covers the whole universe by immeasurable step. Lord Vishnu is powerful, and his activities are so glorious that he has created the spiritual world by his internal potency and the material world by his external potency. By his all-pervading features, he is everywhere present as a supreme truth, and in his personal feature, he is always present in his transcendental abode of Goloka Vrindavan, where he displays his transcendental pastimes in all variegatedness. His activities cannot be compared to anyone else's, and therefore the word Urukrama is just applicable to him only. So, Prabhupada is defining a lot of these words, but I'm not going to go into so much depth because the first time we are studying Bhagavatam. But overall, I've given you an understanding. If you have any question, feel free to ask. If there's anywhere you're stuck or you feel like, because I don't want to complicate it, I just want to see if there are anything that are doubts that you have. What about capitalism? So mindless capitalism. So Prash is right here, so he's asking me here. So mindless capitalism is a factor where God is not in the picture, because capitalism leads to an unfair ground where the 1% gets to enjoy and the 99% is exploited, right? Communism is forced equality, but there is no sense of God. So when Prabhupada speaks about capitalism, it is mindless money-mindedness where God is not in the picture. When God is in the picture, like Srila Prabhupada, he had business for incense sticks, right? Spiritual sky, book distribution. Money was flowing into ISKCON. Prabhupada left with 40 rupees, and there were $450 million worth of temples around the world when Prabhupada was leaving this planet. So capitalism was there, but with Krishna in the center. The story of Prabhupada hugging that pile of money is like, you give me a pile of money, I'll hug it and take a picture with it. Why? Because this money is for Krishna. So when capitalism is used in service to Krishna, that is beautiful. When capitalism is greedy, godless, right, it's for exploitation only. You don't see a person, a soul within. You see, here is a person who's working for me, is my slave, and I'm going to exploit him, right? And that leads to that demoniac tendency. That's what Prabhupada is referring to. All right. Any other questions anybody has? Okay. Snehal Mataji.
हरेर्गुणाक्षिप्तमतिर्भगवान् बादरायणी आद्यागान्महदाख्यानं नित्यं विष्णुजनप्रियः Srila Sukdev Goswami, son of Srila Vyasdeva, was not only transcendently powerful, he was also very dear to the devotee of the Lord. Thus, he underwent the study of this great narration, Shrimad Bhagavatam.
According to the Thank you, Mataji. According to the Brahma Vaivarta Puran, Srila Shukadev Goswami was a liberated soul even within the womb of his mother. Srila Vyasadeva knew that the child after his birth would not stay at home. Therefore, Vyasadeva impressed upon him the synopsis of Bhagavatam so that child could be made attached to the transcendental activities of the Lord. After his birth, the child was still more educated in the subject of Bhagavatam by recitation of the actual poems. So, Srila Vyasadeva, being the ideal father, gave the transcendental knowledge of Krishna consciousness of Srimad Bhagavatam to Srila Shukadeva Goswami, who gave it to Parikshit Maharaj, and because of him, the conversation, we have this class, we have the Bhagavatam. So it's important to understand here the role of Vyasadeva as a father. So when we are becoming a father or a mother or a leader in any shape or form, it is important that directly or indirectly, we somehow or other give Krishna consciousness to those who are looking up to us, right? Many of you know how I do it, through corporate speaking engagements, preachings, this, that, where it doesn't look like preaching, but it is a little bit more indirect, right? I wear kantimala, I have a special diet. People ask, why don't you eat onion garlic? We have a nice conversation. And that allows people to understand, oh, such a person with such credentials is following this path of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. That's interesting. Why don't we also do the same? And thus questions arise and people start slowly inquiring into the absolute. So in our limited capacity, whatever we have, whatever gifts Krishna has given us, it is important that we share directly or indirectly Krishna consciousness. I remember when I was running for election in college, my mentor, I was immature. My mentor was telling me, oh, why are you doing all this? You should focus on chanting and sadhana and this, that. And I circumvented him and went to my Guru Maharaj. I said, Maharaj, when I'm a student leader, I can do this and that and this and that. Are you opposed to me running for elections? And Maharaj says, no, you can be a leader with great character. And you don't have to say Krishna also, but by seeing your character, people will be like, wow, this person has good character. And when they ask you, what is your secret? You say that is Krishna consciousness. That is Bhagavad Gita. And by that, you'll be able to preach with your example, right? I went to my mentor and said, look, Maharaj just give me permission. So I'm going to fight for elections. He's like, I did this 2 or 3 times and then he told me, this is not right. But long story short, Yeah, I was a rebellious, I still am a rebellious mentee of my mentor, but somehow he's been forgiving. Point is, what Maharaj gave me, that is something I still follow till date. That I know people are watching me, how I do, what I say, how I treat others, and I try my best to make sure that Krishna conscious principles, qualities, uh, are in place. Like when somebody says something, I said, "How may I serve you?" Generally, people get very like, "What? Why do you want to serve me?" Like, well, that's my mentality. That's my training as a aspiring Vaishnava. That my mood is, how can I serve you? How can I add value in your life? Right? And that completely changes the mood of the conversation. It changes the perception of this. Somebody might say, "Oh, you're the weirdest person I've met," right? Or somebody might say, like, "There's something different about you." Like, yes, I follow, by tradition. I follow my spiritual path, and this is who I am, and this is what we are taught in our Vaishnava system. So, even though some people might laugh at you initially, eventually they'll respect you because the process is so beautiful. It is Krishna's process. So eventually it touches the heart and people question it. Why am I not doing it? Why am I not part of this system? Yes, Pradeep Prabhu.
So, Prabhuji, was that the right decision to run the election?
Was the right decision to write for election? You know, um, here is the deal. I am not another person who fits in a box, right? So, yes, by running for election, I became the second most popular person on campus. Whenever my Guru Maharaj would come, our classrooms, auditoriums would be filled with people because I was using my position to bring in Westerners to preach to them, right? I was using my position to bring in thousands and thousands of dollars from the university activities fund, student activities fund, to our club, Vedic Vision Society, so that kirtan can happen, preaching can happen, Krishna lunch can happen, right? Krishna house can happen, all kinds of things. All with 6 days a week, we were having programs. It is because I had power and position, I had access, and my mentor was protecting me from most people should be protected from. But I am built differently. And eventually he understood this guy is not just another person you put in a box. You let him free. He's an entrepreneur. He'll not get a job. He's likes to run for politics. He's a bloody show off. He will do only glamorous things. He realized I'm not a humble devotee, right? So yes, it was a good, right decision, and I should have rather talked to my mentor rather than circumventing him going to Guru Maharaj. But whatever it is, it was the right decision, and it tremendously helped our preaching. And this is one college in entire North America which has been going on for the last 24 years, right? Preaching is still going on in my campus. 2000 Guru Maharaj started, and 2024 we are still
Very
continuing,
cool.
right? And a lot of the push that the blossoming happened is when I was the president of the organization, because I was using everything, all the resources I had access to push Krishna consciousness. So I hope that answers your question.
Lovely, sir. Lovely. Haribol. It's going on 24 years. It's going on. Oh, that's a
Imagine.
lovely thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I'm very grateful. Guru Maharaj started it, it's still going on. All right. Move on to the next verse. So Shukadeva Goswami, being the perfect student, later on he becomes a perfect teacher. That's another thing to appreciate. To be a good teacher, a good mentor, a good coach, we have to be a good student, a good mentee, a good follower, right? Only then, when somebody says, from day one, I want to be leader, that means you don't know what it takes to be a follower. That's not our system. A good follower watches the leader, sees how they do things, learns under their discipline, gets disciplined by them, learns under their mentorship, and then they imbibe those beautiful qualities and become the good leaders. And they know the pain that a follower might be facing because they've been in their shoes, right? So to be a leader, one must be a follower. To be a guru, one must be a good disciple. And we see our disciplic succession, whether it's Narottam Das Thakur, whether it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur, whether it's Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, whether it's Srila Prabhupada, our own Guru Maharajas, excellent disciples. They took so much learning from their teachers, so much hardship from their, I'll just share something with you. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when, he's the only disciple of his Guru. And his Guru was a great soul who would not initiate anyone just out of humility that, I'm not a literate person. I don't have the qualification to initiate anyone. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur told Bhaktisiddhanta that he's the right person. You should go to him, Gaur Krishna Das Babaji, and that you should take initiation from him. Bhaktisiddhanta got rejected so many times, and then he decided to perform some service. He knew where his Guru was passing stool in the morning on the banks of the river. Every day he would go with his own hands, he would clean the place, right? And his Guru started noticing who's doing this, who's cleaning up this place. The Bhaktisiddhanta, the erudite scholar, Siddhanta Saraswati, somebody who has become, at this very early age, as a teenager, he had already accomplished so much in astrology and other things. Such a person went and cleaned his spiritual master's, so-called bathroom. It's not a bathroom. It's basically, what it is. Days and days he did that. Then his Guru said, "Why are you doing this? You're such a great person. I don't, qualify. I don't qualify as your Guru. No, only you can." Okay, I'll ask Lord Chaitanya. He gave a lot of excuses. Bhaktisiddhanta was determined. No, I will serve my Guru. Even if he doesn't accept me, I will serve him. I'll keep serving him. And then finally he was accepted. So we see Bhaktisiddhanta as a lion Guru, right? He's such a stalwart. But then as a disciple, look at his humility. Look at how he was as a son, as a disciple, as a follower, right? His father said, "Please take this Krishna conscience to the West." Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his capacity, established 64 Gauriya Maths, which Srila Prabhupada extended to ISKCON. And now we have all these temples around the world, right? So every good leader, every good son, or every good father, they have to be in the position of the follower first, and then they could. So Shukadeva Goswami was a student first, a teacher later, right? That's what we see here. So Srila Shukadeva Goswami, son of Srila Vyasadeva, was not only transcendently powerful, he was also very dear to the devotees of the Lord. Unless you're dear to the devotees of the Lord, you will not have the secrets to Krishna consciousness. It is my experience that when devotees love you, they share with you their learnings of Krishna consciousness. And those little things are the things that help you move forward. There was this wonderful devotee. She would dress Shishi Kishore Kishori in Chicago very beautifully. And every time I would see Shishi Kishore Kishori, I'm like, wow, this must be Kirtida Mataji. And I would go up to her. I'm like, "Mataji, was it you?" She's like, "Yes, Prabhuji." I'm like, "You're so talented." And, because I would always appreciate her, she had an affection for me. And one day I was sitting, having dinner in the temple, and I was kind of morose. My face was down. She said, "What happened?" I said, "I've been writing to my Guru Maharaj reports every month, and he's not responding to me. And he responds in 1.5 hours, 2 hours generally. But with me, everybody's getting responses, not me." But she said, it's not him that you should be pointing fingers at, it's you. So internally see what qualities you can develop. When you're in this distress mode, always look internally. This is an opportunity to develop a quality to get close to Krishna. What can I develop in this situation? The moment she said that, my whole perception changed. And boom, 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 Krishna made arrangements, and I saw Maharaj had responded to every single email to a different email address, which I stopped checking. It was a Hotmail, not the email I was emailing from. Somehow that happened. And I was happy. But the point is, it was that moment where I learned something very interesting, that when in a situation where I'm feeling left out, or I'm feeling ignored, or I'm feeling hurt, it is an opportunity to develop a quality of patience, quality respect. There are so many qualities that a devotee has. So develop a quality that allows me to take myself one step closer to being accepted in Krishna's entourage, right? So like that, small things, don't try to be the boss, be the servant. When I was trying to give my first TED talk, I was super nervous. I ran away from the auditorium and I was like, I'm not going, all these big stalwarts, what will I speak? And my best friend got tired of trying to convince me. Then he called up my mentor who was in a GBC meeting. And from the GBC meeting, he just sent 2-line message. Remove yourself from the center. Do it for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. And again, that's a pivotal statement. And till date, things that I do where I feel not very confident, not very. My apologies. I think my internet had some issues. Where was I? What was I saying?
Yeah.
So these small things that you receive from devotees, when they love you, they feel free to share their learnings with you. And these are the things that help you, move in Krishna consciousness. Krishna speaks to you through these devotees. So it's important to be such a devotee that you are loved. Be humble, be, have the attitude of service. So thereby, people want to give you some tips, some nice things, some corrections, right? They can feel free to correct you. They can feel free to give you pointers, realizations, where you can grow as a devotee. It's not just guru and mentor, and that's it. Prabhupada has created a whole society for us. Why? Because in a society, we can help each other grow. And that's a very important part of nourishment. If you look at the tree of life, the roots, we receive nourishment from our seniors. We share with our equals and we give our fruits and flowers to our juniors, right? And all of that, when we are able to do, we feel fulfilled as a human being. And so being part of the ISKCON society, being part of the devotee community is that we are able to share our Krishna conscience with each other and relish Krishna's glories with each other. There is nothing more pleasurable to a devotee than being able to share Krishna consciousness and talk about and gossip about Krishna, right? How wonderful Krishna is. Okay, so I'll move on to the next verse. Anybody wants to read 12th text? If no one reads, then Sneha Mataji can read.
परीक्षितोऽर्थराजर्षे जन्म कर्म विलापनम् संस्था च पाण्डुपुत्राणां वक्षे कृष्ण कथोदयम्. Suta Goswami thus addressed the rishis headed by the Shaunaka. Now I shall begin the transcendental narration of the Lord Shri Krishna and the topic of birth, activities and deliverance of the King Parikshit, the sages among the kings, as well as topics of the renunciation of the worldly order by the sons of Pandu.
Thank you, Mataji. So Suta Goswami thus addressed the rishis headed by Shaunaka. Now I shall begin the transcendental narration of the Lord Shri Krishna and the topic of the birth, activities, deliverance of King Parikshit. So we will hear about Parikshit Maharaj, the sage amongst kings. So we say Raja Rishi, right? Who's a Rajarshi, is one who's a sage amongst kings. So often we say, no, I will not bring up a political topic. All right. As well as the topic of renunciation of the worldly order by the sons of Pandu. So here begins the theme of this chapter. Without further ado, we'll go dive into it. Mataji, if you want to read.
यदा मृधे कौरवसृज्ययानां वीरेष्वथो वीरगतिगतेषु वक्रोदराविद्धगदाभिमर्शम् भग्नोरुदण्डे धृतराष्ट्रपुत्रे भर्तुप्रियं द्रोणीरितिस्म कश्चन कृष्णासुतानां स्वपता शिरांसि उपाहरद्विप्रियमेव तस्य जुगप्सितं कर्म विघ्नहर्यन्ति. When the respective warriors of both camps, namely the Kauravas and the Pandavas, were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and the dead warriors obtained their deserved destinations, and when the son of Dhritarashtra fell down, lamenting his spine broken, being beaten by the club of Bhimsena, the son of Dronacharya, Ashwadhama, beheaded the five sleeping sons of Draupadi and delivered the heads as a prize to his master, foolishly thinking that he would be pleased. Duryodhana, however, disapproved of the heinous act, and he was not pleased in the least.
So here we are learning about Mahabharata, the birth of Parikshit Maharaj, and which begins with the end of Mahabharata, where the Pandavas have won. Everything is good. Duryodhana has been beaten, and Ashwadhama, it's kind of like the loser's last attempt to hurting the winners. He did a heinous act of killing all the sons of Draupadi. And basically from here we go into King Parikshit being protected by Krishna personally from the atom bomb Brahmastra that Ashwadhama had sent to kill the last descendant of the Pandavas, the last option that there was chance for the dynasty to move on. That was Parikshit Maharaj, and Ashwadhama, being the person that he is, he tried to end Parikshit, and Krishna in the womb comes and protects Parikshit, and he gets darshan of the Supreme Lord while in the womb. So that was very fortunate, and that's the story that is being narrated in the next several verses, starting with the end of the Mahabharata and how that whole thing happens, and then Parikshit grows up and becomes this great king who's a Raja Rishi, and then he does this thing with the Brahmana. You know the story. We'll narrate that in details. So I'll end here, and I'll see if there are any questions. We have 6 minutes left. If there are any questions or discussions or realizations that you want to share. I see Jui has a wonderful devotee here from Mayapur. I believe you're visiting. Hare Krishna Mataji. What is your name?
Hare Krishna, my name is Jayada Radhika.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. Would you like to share something on these verses, some realization, something you want to share?
All right.
Mataji, share stories that you're telling me. Everybody will be very pleased to hear. One story.
Okay, fine. There was actually, you were talking earlier about Srila Prabhupada's, the story of the Rath Yatra, right? And how when Srila Prabhupada said, you did it, you made it happen, however. And so I have a story too, if you would like to hear it. My father was actually brought down from Vancouver, Canada, to LA to create somehow an incense making machine so they could start that incense business. And he invented it, and they got it working very nicely. Wow. And so that's how they got it going. And so then we were there, and then they had gotten old church and they wanted to turn it into a temple. And so my father was instrumental in doing that. And they had actually bought out the American gold market for the gold leaf, for 24 karat gold leaf. And they gold leaf the altars and everything, the doors, like that. And then there were still such a pile of gold leaf left over, my father said, well, I'd like to do something about that. So I saw in Prabhupada's books, there's pictures of chakras on the temples in India, and maybe he'll be pleased if we do that here. So he sat and carved, I remember him carving out a chakra out of wood, and then he gold leafed it and put it on the top of the LA temple. And then Prabhupada came, we used to all race to the airport to pick him up and then race him back so that we could greet him when he arrived at the temple. So we were doing that. My parents were like neck and neck with Prabhupada at that point, when Prabhupada suddenly looked up and all down the boulevard, you could see this chakra. And he turned to the devotee next to him, and the devotee was telling him who had made it. And then he looked over and saw my father, and it's him. And Prabhupada turned to my dad and he mouthed, thank you very much, like that. Thank you very much, he mouthed it. And then later on, he asked to speak to my father, and he told my father it was the first chakra on his ISKCON temples. And he was so pleased with him. And then he said he had just been given a property in New York, and it was a skyscraper. It was a 13-story building, and he had always wanted a skyscraper. So he was so happy about this 55th Street, and so he's told my dad that he wanted him to go and turn it into a temple. But it was an old nursing home. It had to be rewired, replumbed, like everything like this. They went through all the plans together and everything. And then finally, Srila Prabhupada asked my father, how long do you think it will take to turn it into a temple? So my father's doing all the calculations in his head, and he's just opening his mouth to say, well, if we really rush, about a year, Srila Prabhupada. And just before he could get the words out, Srila Prabhupada looked very shy and he said, I am due to arrive in New York in 6 weeks. And my father said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, it will be ready. So he came home and he told my mother, pack, we're moving to New York in the morning. And we thought it was just for those 6 weeks and we'd be back. We never saw LA again. We went to New York, we caught the first plane, went to New York, and we just worked. The devotees worked day and night. And I can remember painting the hallways as high as I could reach. And then my father behind me, he would reach where I couldn't, and he'd paint the rest of it. We just went down the hallway like that. And devotees just basically, they worked until they couldn't work anymore and took a short nap. Someone else would take their place. And then, they get up and start working again like this. And 6 weeks later, the temple was ready.
Wow.
It was incredible. And so then everyone rushed to get Prabhupada at the airport, but my father stayed back just to do the last finishing touches. And then he heard the devotees, he heard the kirtan starting up. So, they're back, I better go out. And so he ran out, and then he saw all the devotees lining the way, and they all had beautiful gifts for Prabhupada. And he thought, oh, I was so busy with the temple, I never got a gift for Prabhupada. I have nothing to give him, and there's no time left. He had an entire temple, but he didn't think like that. So he ran back in. He thought, well, at least I can give him a flower. And he ran back into the pujari room to get a flower and found out all the flowers had been used in decorating the temple and making the garlands, all this kind of thing. So the only flower that was left was a rose. And the reason it was left was because it was going all black at the edges, and its stem was broken and hanging like this. Anyway, my father just grabbed it and ran out, and then Prabhupada arrived. Everyone paid their obeisances, and Prabhupada, he got out of the car and he just stared at this temple, right? And he didn't look left or right. He just kept looking at the temple, and he was walking. His feet were not touching the ground.
Are you serious?
I'm very serious. Yes. And he was just, and people were giving him gifts. He would take them, thank you very much. Thank you very much. But his eyes didn't deviate from the temple. And then when his arms got too full, he passed them back to his servant. And then thank you very much, like this. And my father, seeing all these things, was like, I can't possibly give this rose. So he just slipped his hands behind his back and stood like this with his hands behind his back. And Prabhupada, his eyes still on the temple, he never stopped walking until he reached my father. And suddenly he stops and he reaches out his hand like this. And then he goes like this twice. And so my father brings out this old dying rose and puts it in Prabhupada's hand. And Prabhupada is still looking at the temple, takes the rose, brings it center like this, puts his hands together, and then turned to my father and said, thank you very much.
Wow.
So that's that story. I was reminded of that incident when you were talking about just, you do what Prabhupada said. And then Prabhupada sent us other places all over the place, We just went and did perform, my parents performed miracles because Prabhupada said do it. And so you made it happen. So Prabhupada gave the Shakti.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Mataji. What's your father's name, if I may ask?
Chaitanya Simha.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for sharing that story.
Hare
Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai. See you next Friday. Hare Krishna, everyone. Take care.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare